why I decided to build a greenhouse and which type I decided to build. That's this time on Last year was my first attempt at having a garden in West Texas with the heat and the low humidity. Needless to say, nothing really grew that well. That's when I got the idea to build a greenhouse. But what type of greenhouse? I looked on the internet, and the most prolific one I found was called the Harbor Freight 6x8 greenhouse. It was a aluminum frame with double paned polycarbonate in it. It was actually relatively cheap, around $300, and if you had a coupon you could get it sometimes for $199. But there were a lot of bad reviews of it, how it didn't last a year, how things didn't work right. But the Harbor Freight here in Lubbock doesn't carry them. The only way I could get it was to order it online. I really wanted to see one before I bought it because, I mean, you know, when do you go on and complain about something? Well, when do you go on and talk about something? When you only have a complaint. Very often you don't go, if you're happy with it, you don't think about it, so you don't go online and say anything about it or go and write something about it. It's only when it's bad. So I figured they're selling a lot of them, there's got to be some good ones. But then by a happy coincidence, my neighbor across the alley here is a landscape architect, and one of the properties he worked on had a Harbor Freight greenhouse. They didn't want it, it was still in good shape, the frame wise, and so they gave it to him as part of the payment. He put it up next to his house, and I went and looked at it. Boy, was I glad I did. This is the online photo of the Harbor Freight 8x6 greenhouse. Look how big it is. Look how that girl fits easily inside of it. It's got to be very sturdily built. Stand up to the wind, no problem. Well, as I said, this is the illusion. Here is the reality. It's much smaller than it appears online. As you can tell, my 5-foot, 8-foot frame has to duck to come in the door. Ow. The side pieces only come up to below my chest. The clips that hold in the polycarbonate fail all the time. The wind blows the pieces all over your yard and into the neighbor's yard. The polycarbonate yellows and becomes brittle and breaks after only 1 year. The door received the most complaints. It wouldn't slide right, it wouldn't close right, it wasn't square. You had to work really, really hard to get it to work right. Sure, it's only $200 with a coupon, but you have to do so much work to it to make it work, and it may only last 1 or 2 years. Just not worth the time. So after my little tour of the greenhouse, or the remnants of it, I decided that the Harbor Freight wasn't for me. It wasn't big enough, and I didn't think it'd last even a year, so the cheap price really wasn't worth it. I've since found on the internet people that have modified them, building wood covers for them and everything like that, and it would have just cost too much. I mean, it would have cost as much as the next greenhouse I found, which was going to be around $850. It was a 6x10. But it was $1,000. It was $850 plus shipping and tax, which was going to end up right at $999. And just for an experiment, it didn't seem right. So on that same site, I happened to come across a kit where they sold you the joints and the plans, and you supplied the wood and the coverings. Well, I went and looked it up on YouTube and online trying to find anything about it, and there wasn't anything to find. Yeah, I could find one little 20-second promo just showing me what I could see on their website. So I didn't have anybody saying it's good, bad, or indifferent. But for the price, I think it was only $85 for the 8x10. I thought, what the heck? I'll buy it and build it, and I'll make videos while I'm building it so that people can go watch, since there wasn't anything up. So I did. I can hear what you're thinking. Why in West Texas, where there's a lot of heat, would you want a greenhouse? Well, I want it for the opposite reason most people do. Sure, I wanted to be able to overwinter my lemon tree and lime trees, but I also wanted it for the control that you can have with a greenhouse. Inside here, one of the reasons that stuff doesn't grow in Texas is it's too hot and it's not humid enough. Well, in here, I can make it humid. And actually, I can cool it off too. Two ways to do that: with a misting system and a swamp cooler or an evaporative cooler. The way those work is they have pads that trickle water down, and then they have a fan that pulls the air through them and they throw it out. Well, guess what? That puts out a lot of humidity. So I can have a fan in here like that, put out a lot of humidity, and cool it down at least 10 degrees in here. Plants usually like it around 90 degrees. Well, it gets up to about 100 here in Texas. I could have the shade up and have the air conditioner going and the misting system. I'll have it at 90 degrees with 70–80% humidity. That's what plants love. So that's why I wanted a bigger area, a bigger thing. So I built it. So if you'd like to see how I put this together and how I did it, please check out my videos building the DIY greenhouse 2 through 5. That's it for this time on the Gadget Gardener.